This video will cover how to find slope from a table. Slope from a table. Remember that slope tells us how steep a line is. When we find slope, we use one of these formulas. When you are given a table and are told to find slope, it means that the table can be graphed to form a line. The table is a collection of points on that line. For example, this table shows 4 points on the line of the graph. So we can see 0, -1 is one of the points here, and it is located right here. 2, 0, 2 is the x, 0 is the y, so that's going to put it right there. -2, 2 is going to put it right there, and then -4, -3. So as you can see, it doesn't cover every single point that lies on the line, but it does cover some of the points on the line. When we find slope from a table, the formula that we're going to use is m equals, or slope equals, change, that's what the triangle means, change in y over change in x. So slope equals change in y over change in x. And that's how we're going to figure this out. I'm going to look at my y. I'm going to see how much should it change as it goes up. So as I go from here to here, for example, from -3 to -2, that is increasing by 1. -2 to -1, that's also increasing by 1. -1 to 0 is also increasing by 1. So as we look at the change in y, it's going to be +1. So how much does this y value increase by? 1. Then we're going to look at the change in x. How much does each x value increase by? So as we go from -4 to -2, well, we're adding 2. So, and then as we go from -2 to 0, we're adding 2. And then 0 to 2, we're adding 2. So how much does each x value increase by? 2. And then we're going to put it in the formula, change in y over change in x. So m equals, my change in y is 1, and my change in x is 2. So I got that from here, and I got this part from here. Okay, and this cannot be reduced anymore. 1/2 is as small as it can get. If you want to stay with the m equals rise over run, like we often use for graphs, then you just need to remember that y is going to be your rise, because y goes up and down, and x is going to be your run. You could also even use the formula m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And you would just pick 2 points from the table and then put it in that way if you'd want to do it that way. The reason that I like doing it this way is that once we get into writing equations from these tables, sometimes it's easier if you know what each value is changing by. Question 1. So I am looking for slope, or m equals here. My first step is I'm going to see what y is changing by. So as I look, -4 to -3, that is increasing by 1. -3 to -2, that's increasing by 1. -2 to -1, that's increasing by 1. If you don't know that that's increasing by 1, or maybe you have some bigger value that you're not sure about, you could always just subtract. So I could, for instance, if I'm looking at my top 2 values, I could take -3 minus -4, which would get me +1. So if you don't automatically look at it and see that it's increasing by 1, that's the way you do it. You just subtract this minus this and just keep on doing that. And then looking at my x values, -4 to 0, that's an increase of 4. 0 to 4, I'm adding 4 again. 4 to 8, I'm adding 4 again. Or like I said earlier, if you just want to do, for instance, 8 minus 4, that would get me 4. That's how you know if you don't automatically see it. So then I'm going to go ahead and put it in my formula. Slope equals change in y over change in x. My change in y is 1, and my change in x is 4, like we found right there. So my slope is going to be 1/4. That can't be reduced anymore. Question 2. So remember that when I find slope from a table, I'm using the formula m equals change in y over change in x. And because of that, I need to figure out what my change in y and my change in x is. So if I look at my y values, 5 to 4. Well, what's happening between those two? I'm subtracting 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. Let's see if that works here. 4 minus 1 equals 3. 3 minus 1 equals 2. And like I said earlier, if you don't know that, you could just do 4 minus 5, and that's going to get you negative 1, which is that value right there. Then I'm going to look at my change in x. Negative 1 to 0, I'm adding 1 there. 0 to 1, I'm adding 1. 1 to 2, I am adding 1. So my change in y is going to be negative 1, and my change in x is positive 1, which if I simplify that, it's going to be negative 1. So my m is going to be negative 1, and that's my final answer. Question 3. So the reason I included a table like this one is that these tables often confuse my kids, but there's no reason why. You know where your x is, you know where your y is, it works the exact same way. Just make sure you pay attention to where they're at. Typically the y value is going to be on the bottom. So I'm going to use the same formula, m equals change in y over change in x. And then I'm going to go ahead and figure out my change in y value. So from negative 12 to negative 6, what's happening between those 2 points? Well, it's going up 6. Negative 6 to 0, negative 6 plus 6 is going to get me 0. 0 to 6, what's happening there? I'm adding 6. So my change in y is going to be 6. And then I'll look for my change in x. Negative 4 to negative 2, I'm adding 2. Negative 2 to 0, I'm adding 2. 0 to 2, I'm adding 2. So then I'm going to go ahead and plug that into my formula. Change in y is going to be 6, change in x is going to be 2, and then I can actually reduce this one. 6 divided by 2 is going to get me 3, and that'll be my final answer. This video has been about finding slope from a table. I hope it helped you guys out, but remember, sometimes you just got to try it. Sometimes you won't get it until you try it, and you don't learn math by just watching someone else do it. You got to do it yourself. So good luck as you try it. Make sure you use that formula, m equals change in y over change in x. And remember to put the y on top. That's a common mistake I sometimes see.